What happens when the man who built the business from nothing walks into one of his own kitchens and no one knows who he is? Xavier Nolan stood in the loading dock behind store number 9, rolling up the sleeves of his gray hoodie. He looked nothing like the CEO of a 15-location restaurant chain. The beard helped. So did the glasses, baseball cap, and the extra 10 pounds he'd put on over the winter. But more than that, he'd never met the staff here. It was a newer location, opened just under a year ago on the edge of town. His district manager had hired the team, and lately the numbers had been off, customer reviews had dipped, food costs were up, turnover was high. But the reports he got were vague: training issues, supply delays, low hiring pool. He'd heard it all before. He was tired of boardroom guesses. He wanted the truth, so he created a new backstory. Eric, a temp worker sent by corporate as part of a new logistics audit, supposed to spend a week helping with stock, inventory, and kitchen prep. No one looked twice. Store 9 was always short on hands. "Back here, Eric," came a voice from the rear hallway. A short, wiry man in a black apron waved him over. "Pantry shelves need restocking, and don't stack the rice bags on the bottom left. It screws with the airflow." Xavier nodded. "Got it." It was quiet in the back. The kitchen buzzed on the other side of the swinging doors. He could hear clanging pans, the hiss of steam, orders being shouted. He moved crates from the delivery cart to the pantry shelves, careful not to block the fridge access. Then a voice cut through the noise. "Closer on the prep line." "Jesus, how many times do I have to show her the same damn thing?" It was a man's voice, sharp, mocking. "She used the wrong blade again. That's the third time. I swear we're not running a damn daycare here." A woman's voice followed, quieter. "I'm trying, chef." I didn't want to." "Yeah, you don't want to think. That's the problem." Xavier set a box of onions down and stepped closer to the door, just enough to see through the crack. A young woman stood at the prep table, her hands shaking as she held a peeled cucumber. The chef, a tall man with a shaved head and a red face, loomed beside her, waving a paring knife. "Next time you need extra help, maybe go back to culinary school," he said, tossing the knife onto the steel counter. Xavier's jaw clenched. The girl couldn't have been older than 20. Her apron was still too stiff, like she'd only worn it a few times. She looked like she wanted to disappear. A man in a white shirt, probably the manager, walked by without saying a word. Xavier stepped back, heart beating faster. He didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, he finished stocking the pantry, then grabbed a broom and started sweeping the back hallway. He didn't want to blow his cover too fast. He needed to see more. The young woman came through the doors a few minutes later. She nearly jumped when she saw him. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there." "No worries," Xavier said. "You okay?" She hesitated. "Yeah, just rough morning, first week, fourth day," she said. "I'm Kelsey." "Eric," he said, offering a hand. She took it. Her grip was soft. "I'm supposed to be learning prep, but Chef Nolan's not." "The most patient." Xavier raised an eyebrow. "Chef Nolan?" "Yeah, he's been here since they opened, runs the back like it's a military base. I just don't want to mess up." "You won't," Xavier said. "Everyone starts somewhere." She gave a small smile, but her eyes were still glassy. She thanked him and went to the walk-in cooler. That night, Xavier stayed until close. Watched how the team worked. Saw who cleaned without being asked. Saw who disappeared when dishes piled up. The chef barked orders, cursed when things weren't perfect, and blamed others when they were late getting food out. The manager barely looked up from his tablet, but Kelsey, she stayed behind, helped wipe down counters, organized the knives. She even walked the dishwasher kid through how to delime the sanitizer tray after watching a YouTube video on her break. Outside in the parking lot, Xavier sat in his old Saturn sedan and wrote everything down in a notebook. Names, behavior, moments that stuck. He stared at the store lights for a long time after closing, stewing in what he'd seen. He'd built this company for people like Kelsey, young, hungry, willing to learn, not to be mocked for needing help. Tomorrow, he'd go deeper. He wanted to see what happened when no one thought anyone important was watching. When Xavier showed up the next morning, the sky was still a dull gray. and the back alley behind the restaurant reeked of overfilled trash bins. A delivery truck was idling out front, and no one had cleared the boxes from the night before. He stepped over a broken produce crate, opened the back door with the key they'd issued him, and clocked in without a word. The kitchen lights buzzed overhead. Someone had left the dish pit light on all night, and water was pooled on the tile floor beneath the rinse station. He grabbed a mop from the closet and took care of it quietly. As he worked, he noticed a stack of invoices left unsigned in a plastic bin near the office door. The top sheet had a circled note from the supplier missing 4 cases of chicken again. He heard footsteps behind him. It was the dishwasher, a lanky teenager with headphones around his neck. "You're here early," the kid said. "You on prep now?" "Stock and inventory," Xavier replied. "They told me to float around this week." The kid nodded. "Name's Devante," Xavier offered his hand. "Eric." Devante looked like he hadn't slept much. His apron was already damp and it wasn't even 7. "You always open solo?" Xavier asked. "Yeah, been like that since Marcus quit last month." Said his back couldn't take it anymore. Xavier frowned. "How long you been working here?" "Couple months. I was bussing tables, then they moved me to dish after Jamal got fired. Said it'd only be temporary, but that was 5 weeks ago." Xavier kept his tone neutral. "They training anyone new?" Devante shook his head. "Nah, chef says it's not in the budget. Said we gotta tighten up or whatever, but I've been pulling doubles. My mom's been on me about my grades." Xavier didn't press further. He grabbed a clipboard and started checking the walk-in inventory. He knew what chicken prices looked like. 4 missing cases wasn't cheap. And this location had reported higher food costs for the last 3 months. Around 7:30, the front-of-house staff started arriving. A short woman in a brown sweater and slacks stepped behind the hostess stand. She greeted Xavier with a polite glance and started counting menus. "Morning," he offered. "Hi, you must be the new stock guy. Just here helping for the week. I'm Liana. I do mornings up front. If you see any syrup packs, we're out again." He made a mental note. Then he saw Kelsey come in through the side door, her hair tied back tighter than the day before, her eyes focused ahead. She nodded as she passed him, but didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her shoulders were already tense. Xavier followed the smell of butter and onions into the kitchen. The chef was at the flat top, flipping potatoes with a spatula in one hand and a phone in the other. "Where the hell is my prep?" he barked, not looking up. Kelsey stepped toward the line. "I started slicing the squash, chef, but the mandoline, then get another one," he snapped. "We're not pausing service for squash. Jesus." Xavier watched him toss his phone onto the counter and grab a towel. His forearms were covered in faded tattoos and grease speckled his apron. He moved fast, but not with care, more like someone who was always 1 second from boiling over. "You," the chef said, pointing at Xavier, "you restocked the pantry, right?" "Yeah." "Why the hell would you put the flour next to the fryer oil? You trying to start a fire?" "I followed the shelf map taped above the crates." The chef rolled his eyes. "Yeah, well, next time use common sense." Xavier didn't reply. He just walked away. By 9, the dining room was half full. Orders were flying in. Kelsey was slicing vegetables at a side station when one of the waitresses came back, holding a plate. "This pork's still pink." "Table 6 sent it back." The chef glanced at the plate. "Tell them it's medium." "They said it's undercooked." He wiped his hands and took the plate. "Fine, I'll redo it, but next time tell them to go eat at IHOP if they want everything overdone." The waitress left without answering. Xavier leaned over the prep table where Devante was scrubbing stainless steel pans. "That happen often?" he asked quietly. Devante didn't look up. "Every day." Around 10, the manager arrived. He wore a pressed company shirt and carried a leather binder under his arm. "Morning, team," he said flatly, not looking anyone in the eye. "If you didn't check the board, we've got a new promo this week. Push the sweet potato hash. Corporate says it's high margin." He flipped through his binder without waiting for questions. When Kelsey approached him about her schedule, he waved her off. "Put it on the request sheet. I'll look at it later." She stepped back, disappointed. Xavier had seen enough to know what was going wrong, but he needed to be sure. He asked to shadow the front line for lunch rush and was told to stay out of the way. He did anyway, watching how orders were handled, how long they took to reach tables, and how often dishes were sent back. The answer was often. At one point, a customer flagged down Liana and asked if they'd changed the pancake recipe. She smiled and said no, but when she came back to the kitchen, her face dropped. Did someone switch the batter? The chef shrugged. Ran out of buttermilk, subbed in water and lemon juice. Same thing. No, it's not, she muttered. Xavier leaned against a prep counter, arms folded. He watched Kelsey finish plating a salad, then hesitate. She noticed a strand of hair had fallen onto the plate. She removed it, reeded the entire dish, and sent it out 5 minutes late. The chef slammed a spatula onto the counter. Prep's killing the line today, again. Kelsey didn't respond. She just turned and grabbed another head of lettuce. By mid-afternoon, the place was quiet again. The manager had taken a call in the office and hadn't returned. Chef was reorganizing the dry goods shelf, muttering under his breath about morons who can't read labels. Devante had disappeared into the back lot, probably on a short break. Kelsey was wiping down her station. Xavier approached her gently. You need a hand with those buckets. She looked up. I'm okay. You ever get a proper trainer? She pushed a strand of hair behind her ear. I mean, technically, Chef's supposed to train me, but I mostly just watch and try not to get in the way. Does anyone else help? Liana's been kind. She showed me how to wrap the herb bundles properly. But she's front of house, so. Xavier nodded. You're doing all right. Most people would have quit by now. She paused, then said quietly, I almost did, yesterday, but I need this job. Xavier looked around. The staff was overworked, undersupported, and led by someone who ruled through fear. The manager avoided responsibility whenever possible. And yet, there were people like Kelsey and Devante still showing up. He couldn't stay silent much longer. But one thing was still missing. How did the district manager let this slide? That answer came at 4 when a tall woman in a navy blazer walked in, clipboard under her arm. She greeted the chef with a fist bump. Hey, how's my star team doing? Crushing it, he replied. Got the new guy back there moving boxes, everything's smooth. She didn't look twice at Xavier. Any issues I should know about? Nope, just the usual kids coming in and slowing us down. The district manager laughed. As long as you're keeping the food costs down, I'm happy. That was it. No questions about safety, no concern about the turnover, just margins. Xavier walked outside, stood by the dumpsters, and called his assistant from his personal phone. Clear my schedule tomorrow. I'm ending this. He hung up before she could reply. Xavier arrived before the sun again, this time in a company polo and clean jeans. He no longer needed the disguise. He parked in the far corner of the lot and walked in through the front door, ignoring the side entrance where temps typically clocked in. A barback was mopping near the hostess stand and didn't recognize him. Neither did the server setting up table Cadiz. That was fine. He wanted the staff to be where they normally were, doing what they normally did. He walked straight through the dining area, past the beverage station, and into the kitchen's double doors. The morning bustle had already begun, orders getting scribbled on the prep board, eggs hitting hot pans, the low hum of the cooler door opening and closing. Kelsey was rinsing greens near the sink, her hair tied back in a clip this time. She saw him, paused, but didn't say anything. She was focused, maybe already bracing for the usual chaos. Chef Nolan stood in front of the line, pointing at the griddle while snapping instructions at the breakfast cook. He didn't turn around until Xavier said his name, Chef Nolan. The spatula stopped mid-motion. Yeah, Xavier stepped forward. My name's Xavier Nolan. I'm the founder and owner of this company. The kitchen fell silent. The cook stopped flipping pancakes. The dishwasher froze with a tray in his hands. Kelsey turned fully, eyes wide. Chef Nolan squinted at him, uncertain. You're kidding. I'm not, Xavier said. You've been yelling at my staff and mismanaging my kitchen, and I've been watching it firsthand. The chef's face changed, first confusion, then disbelief, then something harder. "You've been spying on us." Xavier didn't answer the question. "We're going to have a conversation in the office. Right now." He turned and walked toward the hallway, not waiting to see if the chef followed. A moment later, heavy footsteps echoed behind him. Inside the office, Xavier closed the door and motioned toward the chair. He remained standing. "I've seen how you treat new hires. I've seen how you talk to women in this kitchen. I've seen you cut corners with food quality and blame others for your own mistakes." The chef leaned back in the chair, arms crossed. "I run a tight line." "That's how you keep margins up. You've been skipping safety procedures, changing recipes without approval, and pushing out good staff. I've got invoices showing product shortages that don't add up. I've got young employees being verbally demeaned in front of the team. That's not tight. That's reckless." There was a long pause, then the chef shrugged. "You want soft kitchens, go hire pastry chefs. I'm here to move volume." Xavier stared at him. "You're finished here." The chef's jaw tightened. "You serious? Clear out your locker. You're done as of now." "This isn't a discussion." For the first time, the chef didn't have a comeback. He stood slowly, opened the drawer behind the desk, and pulled out a keyring. "You're making a mistake," he muttered. "No," Xavier said. "I'm correcting one." He didn't watch him leave. 15 minutes later, Xavier stood in the middle of the kitchen with the team gathered around. The dining room hadn't opened yet. Some of them looked nervous. A few looked relieved. "I want to apologize to every one of you," he said. "This kitchen hasn't been run the way it should have been." "That ends today." The manager walked in from the front, holding a tablet. "What's going on back here? I've got guests waiting," and Xavier cut him off. "Do you know how many people have quit this store in the last 2 months?" The manager blinked. "I mean, there's been some turnover, but you've ignored scheduling requests, deflected complaints, and let abusive behavior slide because you didn't want to deal with it. That's not leadership." The manager held up a hand. "I've been following district expectations. We've got targets, labor percentages, food costs, and you've missed every one of them," Xavier said. "Except the one where you protect your own convenience." The manager's face flushed. "I've done what I can with what I've got. You're being relieved of duty." "Effective immediately." He opened the office door and gestured. "Leave your keys on the desk." The man looked around the room as if expecting someone to defend him. No one moved after he left. Xavier turned back to the kitchen staff. "The chef and manager are gone. That doesn't fix everything." "But it's a start." Liana stepped forward from the back, her brow furrowed. "Who's running the floor today?" "I'll be here," Xavier said. "And I've brought in a temporary kitchen lead from our flagship location. She'll be here in 20. He turned to Kelsey. "Can I speak with you outside?" She followed him into the alleyway behind the building. The air was cool, the dumpsters a few feet away but thankfully closed. "I owe you a thank you," he said, "for sticking it out when you had every reason to walk." She shook her head. "I was just trying to learn. You will, not under people who make you feel small for asking questions." She looked down briefly, then back up. "I didn't think anyone saw it." "I did," Xavier said. "And I'm sorry it took me going undercover to understand how far off track this place had gone." Kelsey nodded slowly. "What happens now? I want you to keep training. You'll have someone patient and qualified guiding you. If you're still interested, I'd like to enroll you in our internal development program. It gives entry-level employees a path to leadership." Her eyes widened. "Me, you've already shown more leadership than the people we just removed." Back inside, the kitchen had shifted. Devante was loading trays with a bit more focus. Liana was setting up the counter with clean mugs. The new kitchen lead had arrived, a seasoned woman in her 40s who greeted the team with a calm authority. Xavier spent the rest of the morning shadowing the floor, not directing, just watching. He saw where systems lagged: inventory tracking, ticket times, communication between prep and line. He made notes but didn't bark orders. He asked questions instead. At one point he watched Kelsey show a younger busser how to rinse produce properly. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't rush. She just explained the steps, then watched him do it, offering quiet encouragement. That afternoon he called the district manager to his office in the flagship store. You visited store 9 yesterday. She nodded cautiously. And you didn't notice anything wrong? I asked the chef if everything was running smooth. He said yes. You didn't talk to anyone else, she hesitated. I didn't think I needed to. You're responsible for 5 locations. If you're not talking to the people doing the work, you're not managing, you're coasting. I've been hitting my targets, not anymore. You're being reassigned. You'll spend the next 60 days inside one of our busiest stores, not managing, working. You'll clean, prep, serve. You'll see what it's like from the bottom. If you still want a leadership role after that, we'll talk. She didn't argue, just nodded once, stunned. Back at store 9, Xavier gathered the remaining staff for a final huddle before dinner rush. You've been working in a broken system, some of you longer than others. From now on, if you see something wrong, you speak up. You don't need a title to do that. He paused, letting the weight of it settle. We're not perfect, but we get better together. Starting now. As the team dispersed, Xavier lingered near the pass, watching orders go out clean, correct, on time. The hum of the kitchen felt different, not perfect, but lighter, focused. He wasn't here to play hero, he just wanted to fix what he'd failed to protect. And this time, he'd make sure no one got ignored again. 2 weeks after the shake-up, Xavier returned to store 9 without a disguise, without fanfare, and without a clipboard. He didn't need notes anymore. He needed to see if the changes were working not from a distance, but from the floor. The moment he walked through the front door, the difference was visible. The hostess, now a young man named Marco who had transferred from another location, greeted him with a firm nod and a calm voice as he handed off a menu to a family of 4. The morning rush had already started, but there was no shouting, no visible tension. Plates moved steadily from kitchen to table, and the dining room buzzed not with chaos, but conversation. In the kitchen, the new interim kitchen lead, Denise, was at the prep line with Kelsey, showing her how to properly butterfly chicken breasts without tearing the meat. Denise kept her instructions short, but clear, pausing only to correct posture or explain the angle of the blade. There was no hovering, no barking, only active mentorship. Xavier waited until Denise stepped away to check on the line before approaching Kelsey. You look more comfortable with that knife. She glanced up, then returned to her cutting board. I still go a bit slow, but it's starting to make sense. Denise says speed comes after consistency. She's right, you look focused. I don't feel like I'm waiting to mess up anymore. That helps. Xavier leaned slightly against the prep counter, keeping out of the way of the passing staff. You're going to finish training in another week. After that, I've got a spot open in the cross-training rotation. You do weekends in prep, weekdays on cold station. That's something you'd want? Kelsey set down her knife and wiped her hands on her apron. I thought that was only for people who'd been here 6 months. It used to be. We're changing that. She nodded once, visibly trying to contain a smile, and returned to her prep. In the dish pit, Devante was rinsing trays while talking to a new hire who looked barely older than him. They moved in rhythm, one spraying, the other racking. The new kid asked a question about the sanitizer levels, and Devante stopped what he was doing, pulled down the test strip packet from the shelf, and showed him how to check. No eye-rolling, no sarcasm, just a clean explanation. Xavier tapped him on the shoulder as he passed. You've come a long way in 2 weeks, he said. Devante gave a quick nod. Still getting used to not being yelled at for asking stuff, but yeah, it's better. You've been helping the new guy. He's fresh, but he listens. Doesn't cut corners. Keep it up. I'll make sure your next paycheck reflects the extra hours. Devante blinked. Wait, really? You've earned them. By midday, the energy in the store had shifted further. The front-of-house team had formed a rhythm under Liana's guidance. She was no longer just the morning hostess. She'd been promoted to shift lead and now handled floor coordination. Her tone was firm but warm, and she checked in with every table personally at least once. In the back office, Xavier met with Denise for a mid-shift check-in. She sat across from him with a simple notepad filled with scribbled notes. We've got 2 on prep, 1 on grill, and 1 on hot line. I've got Kelsey shadowing me until she's ready to run cold solo. She adjusting well? She's asking the right questions. She's not afraid to say when she doesn't know something. That's more valuable than fake confidence. And the rest of the team, Devante pulling weight like someone twice his age. Liana's a natural leader. The only concern I've got is coverage for Sundays. Still short-staffed. I've got HR pushing out targeted recruiting. We'll get you someone reliable. Denise flipped her notepad shut. One more thing, that manager you reassigned, he sent word through someone at another store. Said he didn't get a chance to explain himself. I'm not interested in explanations, Xavier said. I'm interested in accountability, Denise nodded. Just figured you'd want to know. After she left to check on the line, Xavier went to the break area tucked behind the dry storage. It was small, just a table, a few metal chairs, and a mini fridge, but it was clean. A printed schedule was pinned to the wall next to a whiteboard that now read, "This week's wins, 97% ticket accuracy, 2 new hires trained." No complaints from Table 9. He stood for a moment, reading the small notes that employees had started adding below. Someone had drawn a smiley face with a chef's hat. Another had scribbled, "Kelsey saved the soup again." It was small, but it mattered. He stepped back into the kitchen just as a minor hiccup occurred. A ticket for a custom omelet had been misread, and the plate was already halfway to the table. Instead of blaming anyone, Denise called it back calmly, remade it herself, and sent Kelsey to hand-deliver it with an apology. The guest accepted it without complaint. After lunch rush, Xavier gathered the staff by the prep line. The kitchen was warm, the air thick with the scent of garlic and fried herbs, but everyone quieted when he raised his hand. "You all know who I am now. I could stand here and talk about margins or targets, but I'm not going to. What matters more to me is that this place feels different, and that's because of you." He looked around. No one shuffled. No one looked away. "I expect every store in this company to run like this one now. Not because it's perfect, but because people here care enough to improve. That's what I built this company on, and I lost sight of it. That won't happen again." He turned to Denise. "You're staying on as kitchen lead full-time. If you want to grow into a GM role, I'll make the path clear." He turned to Liana. "You'll be enrolled in our leadership mentorship track. You've already shown you can handle responsibility. The rest is just training." Then to Devante. "Your schedule's being adjusted so you're not pulling doubles. You'll also be getting a wage bump, and I'm putting in a referral bonus for whoever brought in your new guy." Finally, to Kelsey. "You're being fast-tracked into our culinary development program. If you commit, in 6 months you'll be certified to supervise prep and cold station independently." She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Instead, she just nodded, eyes locked on his. Xavier took a breath. "I'm not going back to a corner office. From now on, I rotate stores every month. No notice, no suits, just work. If something's off, I'll see it. If something's working, I'll celebrate it." As the team broke apart, returning to their stations, Xavier lingered behind the pass. Denise returned to the grill, checking the heat settings. Liana reviewed the next shift seating map. Devante turned the dish pit radio up slightly, and the new kid laughed at whatever song came on. Kelsey moved between prep and plating with more confidence than she'd had even a few days before. Not everything was fixed. Some shifts were still short. Some systems still needed refining. But the heart of the place had changed. Not because he demanded it, but because, finally, the right people were being heard. Xavier didn't need to look at a spreadsheet to see the results. He could see them on every face in that kitchen.